Hi, I'm Jess and I have ADHD and I'm also a recovering fearful avoidant. I just wanted to pop on today and discuss 10 signs that you might be anxiously attached. With fearful avoidant attachment style, this attachment style is quite unique in the way that it actually is a combination of both the anxious attachment and the avoidant attachment, but it also has another core wound of trust. So I will do a separate video on signs that you might have fearful avoidance, but it is the least common one. So it's only about 5% of the population that actually has fearful avoidant attachment style. It does tend to be highly linked with trauma in the childhood. I actually think there's a lot to do with undiagnosed ADHD in my household, and that's probably a lot of where it's come from and different scenarios surrounding that. But anyway, totally off topic. So we'll jump into 10 signs that you may be anxiously attached. So if any of these signs resonate, I'm not diagnosing you. It's just something to bear in mind, maybe do a little bit of your own research around, and yeah, just a step, it's just a step towards self-improvement. So I hope you like it. If you do like the video, please subscribe, follow, depending on where I share this video on, because I am sharing it on multiple platforms. But any support is welcomed and much appreciated. So with the anxious attachment style, they do have a core wound of worthiness. So they have like an unworthiness wound. They're just trying to prove their worth all the time. They're trying to prove that they're worthy of others' affection and others' love. They're trying to prove they're good enough at the job. They're trying to prove all the time. They're just pushing to prove themselves to other people, instead of just being proud of who they are, and knowing that because they're a human being, they're worthy of love. It's basically like a constantly moving target. So as soon as they feel like they've done this and this to prove that they're worthy, there's something else that it's never over. It's just the ball just keeps going and going. So number 2 is, with anxious attachment, their caregivers were often inconsistent. So it was kind of something that they learned to try and observe the environment and to try and work out, when, where and why your needs were getting met in order to survive, basically, get your needs met. So as an adult, this can look like they like to jump straight in. They don't really like small talk. They like to understand people's motivations around things. So that's where they can jump into deep conversations and want to know the ins and outs of things really quickly. And that's so that they have an understanding of, okay, so when, where and how am I going to get my needs met around this person. Third sign is that you tend to always be the one that's the most committed in the relationship, or the one that's doing the most in the relationship, working towards the next step, working towards growing more intimacy. This can again go back to childhood. So the anxious attachers often had emotionally unavailable parents, or they were emotionally there for them sometimes, and inconsistent with the meeting of their needs. They often tend to get drawn towards the same type of partners, and mistake people that are seemingly emotionally stoic and emotionally mature, and think that that's what they are, but actually they're drawn towards emotionally unavailable people, like the avoidant attachers. That's often why they're the people that are often wanting to push for intimacy, and it's because the avoidant attachers struggle with that. Number 4 is that you often tend to suppress your own needs in a relationship in the early dating stages. So I tend to think that if you can become this person that your partner wants you to be, once you're in a relationship, you can start to think, okay, well, I'll just suppress my needs, and then maybe we can have that conversation down the line. But for now, I just want them to like me, basically. This can create this is starting a relationship on it's not a reliable foundation to start a relationship on, because you aren't being open about who you are. So then you get into a relationship, and then you get into the more serious stages of the the relationship, sorry. Then you start to tell your partner all of these needs that you weren't open about before, and then that can cause a lot of arguments, a lot of conflict, because you ultimately aren't the person that you showed at the beginning of a relationship. And also, that's not really fair. And I understand where it comes from, but then, you know, that leaves the other person like, well, this is what I signed up for, so now we're having lots of fights and breakups. So the best thing you can always do is obviously be aware of your needs and express them at the beginning of the relationship, but that is something that anxious attachers really find hard to do. Number 5 is that a lot of your conversations with your friends, your colleagues, your family, they all tend to revolve around relationship topics. You constantly want to talk about your relationship all the time. The anxious attachment style is actually called anxious preoccupied, and there is a great preoccupation around emotions and relationships. So, you know, that's kind of where that comes from, the name. People with a secure attachment style, they also talk about relationships, but they're not preoccupied with that all the time. So, you know, they have other things going on. They've got like the gym, they've got hobbies, they've got the work commitments, and all of these are different conversations that they're having with their friends, family, colleagues. It's not always just around relationships. The 6th sign that you could have anxious attachment style is that you obsess about what your partner is thinking all the time. This can again go back to from early childhood, so you had to become a bit of a detective and watch your caregivers to see how they were feeling in order to get your needs met. And you can recreate this as an adult and go for an emotionally unavailable partner who again isn't really direct with their emotions and how they feel, and is not really direct with you. Then you turn into this detective. You're constantly like what's going on with them in order to get my needs, so that I can get my needs met. Okay, number 7, when you're single, you tend to basically sustain yourself on fantasies in your head, and fantasies can happen at all stages of the relationship, but ultimately, instead of actually expressing your needs and asking the other person to help meet your needs, you will not really talk about them and live in this fantasy land. Rely on the potential of a person instead of actually the reality of the situation, and that's because as a child, when you were left and your needs weren't getting met, you imagined your needs getting met in order to feel better. Number 8, you struggle to keep and set boundaries, and that's because, you know, you have a fear of abandonment, so you don't want to state your needs, state your boundaries in case that person doesn't meet them and walks away from you. I just want to say as well, it is not your responsibility as a partner to try and change the person that you're with because you want them to be this person that you have in your head. That is not only unfair on yourself, it's not fair on that other person. That person is whole, a whole person as they are, and you trying to change them without them wanting to do that work themselves is disrespectful. I know that it's hard when you again can see potential in a situation, but it's not the reality of it. So you just gotta either accept them exactly how they are, have conversations, have open dialogue about what you need. But if that person cannot meet your needs, that person is probably not for you. And I know that it hurts to let go of somebody that you want to be with, but every time you do, you're trying to change that person. You're just taking away time from finding the right person who can meet them needs for you. Number 9, kind of going on from the last topic, you put people on pedestal, and then when they don't live up to this unrealistic expectation that you've got of that person, you get frustrated at them. And number 10, you're always preoccupied with what others think about you. Self-improvement should not be working towards the approval of other people. It should be working towards feeling calmer within yourself and happy with who you are as a person.